But if Canon had even just released an EOS R5 that was similar to the A9 back in 2017, I would have probably sold off all my Sony gear and went back to Canon. So, it's finally here, the EOS R5. I give you a quick initial impressions of the camera. Stay tuned. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's that one camera guy back at again with another video for you. And today we're taking a look at the Canon EOS R5. And as someone who currently shoots Sony and has used Canon cameras before in the past and still use it today in some capacity, I wanted to go ahead and give you my initial thoughts of this camera because honestly, I've talked a lot about the camera. I've talked about the overheating issues. I've talked about just the specifications of the camera. But I would say that when the the specifications first came out, I was very impressed with what Canon was doing with it. And really, we were all just waiting for the cameras to come into the hands of people and reviewers. And so everything else checked out about it, with the exception of the video, which for the most part is going to be a hit or miss for some people, you know. But for the photo side of things, it's pretty incredible. Now in this video, I'm going to go ahead and tell you just my overall thoughts of it. I've had a chance to go ahead and play with it, shoot some photos, adapt some lenses, because that's really what I wanted to do with it. Struggling to edit 8K video a little bit. But anyway, first off, let's go over the build of this camera. When I first took the camera out of the box, oh, by the way, this is a unit from Lens Rental. I paid for the rental along with several other lenses. And yeah, no one's paying me for this. It's not sponsored in any way. So I'm not putting on a Sony hat for this. I'm just giving you my genuine impressions of this camera. So in terms of build, when I took it out, it was actually extremely light. And it felt much lighter than I thought it would be compared to what I remember from the EOS R. Now, I used the EOS R. I rented that out as well. I liked where Canon was going with it, but I just wasn't a fan of the features in that camera. It seemed like an A7R II, and I was already on an A9 and A7R III, and so it was like walking backwards in terms of technology. Now, I will say that is not the case with this camera. It's almost as if it leapfrogged Sony, and it did, plus a little bit more. It caught up, plus a little bit more on Canon side. Other things, build, the handling, my hand fits there really well. There's no issues with my finger kind of hanging down here with the Sony stuff. The screen is big and beautiful here, folks. This is incredible. I'm still waiting for the A7S III, obviously, and I will review that one when it's out. But the screen on the Canon is just incredible. There's nothing... This is the kind of stuff that Sony needs to be going towards, is this kind of screen caliber and quality on there. But other than that, build, everything about it is great. Here's the bottom side. Maybe you can tell what's going on. I'm actually not doing overheating tests per se. I actually was using a dummy battery in here, and I needed to set the sensor off so that it wouldn't do it. It's not my unit, it's not my own camera, so I'm not going to damage it. But I was just doing some tests with the Atomos Ninja. I do a lot of long-form recording events, and I have an event coming up this week, and I wanted to see if I could use this and shoot in 4K HQ using the Atomos Ninja. Now, I ran some initial tests. I remember from the YouTuber No Life, he was able to record for a prolonged period of time using the Atomos Ninja. For some reason, my camera is overheating, and I'm trying to follow all the steps with the Atomos Ninja 5. This has the new firmware, so let me know if you're experiencing that issue with the R5 in some capacity. But what I did was I set the Atomos Ninja 5, no overheating control, HDMI obviously, 4K HQ, all that good stuff. Now, the screen turns off after a while, right? Like after 30 minutes, but when I went ahead and turned it back on at about 40 minutes, I tapped the screen or I reactivated it, the overheating warning came up. I was there blinking already and it shut off. So I was wondering if it was because I reactivated the screen that the camera decided to shut down. And now we all know that there's something fishy going on with how Canon is sort of determining when the camera should shut off. But there was no card in the camera. I followed all the steps using a dummy battery, and it died at about 40 minutes. So the event I'm trying to record is about 4 hours. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be using this for that, but I'm probably going to be using it to take some photos and record some short video clips in the 4K 120, 4K 60. Now I also went ahead and rented out this guy right here, the 70-200. Initial impressions, I haven't even used this yet, but I am just fascinated by the compact size of this lens. So much kudos to Canon for doing this. I will test it out as well and see how that goes. I have used this one a little bit. I also rented this out, the 2470 f2.8 RF lens. Wanted to make sure I had that. And then I did not get an RF 15 at 35 because I don't want to spend more money, because it just adds up, folks. So I just went ahead and picked this up. I rented this, and then I went ahead and added a EF to RF adapter. So that's where it's at right now with the camera. So I went over and talked about build. Now let me go ahead and talk about just the handling. This thing is, I don't know what to say about it, but I've been using it, taking photos with it, recording video with it. The photo side of things, this camera just works. It works really well. The shutter, whatever, how it sounds, it feels really good. And I mean, I'm sure you've heard videos of it, but if you ever get a chance to try it, it feels very solid, feels right at home. The autofocus is incredible so far. And I've been really just testing my adapted lenses. I've been testing out the Sigma 35 f1.4, this guy right here. And then I've been testing this out a little bit. It's the Sigma 120-300, because I've kept that EF lens. It was one of my initial lenses I got as a sports lens, and I've just kept it. I've just kept the lens. And so the fact that this camera can drive it at between 10 to 20 frames per second and give it really incredible autofocusing capabilities makes me very, very excited about the EOS R5 and potentially even the EOS R6. So, but overall right now, photo autofocus, I did some tweaking, by the way, which I'll probably talk about in my other video, but I did have to tweak a variety of settings. I had to set the initial autofocus point in the center for servo mode. I went ahead and created some custom settings. So in the video mode, I created 3 custom settings, because one issue with the camera is that when you're trying to jump between video modes, it's really confusing. So I even set a mode where I can just tap. I just tap the M function button, and it quickly jumps between video modes. And then I went ahead and set up a variety of different custom options there as well. One for 8K, one for 4K 120, one for 4K 60, I believe. And then my standard shooting mode is just 4K HQ. So there's a lot of customization here. It seems to work really well, and I've kind of tuned it down to where I feel pretty happy about the way the camera is configured right now. It's really incredible in that regard. So very, very happy with it. The autofocus, like I said, is doing very good. I've done some tests with the IS that's built into the camera. It seems to be going very well. Like I said, I did some of the video test, and the video footage looks really good. Canon log, 8K raw, 4K HQ. The files look really, really good. And just kind of shooting small clips, I wasn't experiencing overheating jumping onto the camera very quickly. But obviously you can definitely see that timer go down. But in a real world scenario where I'm shooting a long form event, it just wouldn't work for me. I would probably have to do the regular 4K option, which I'm probably going to run a couple of tests and see how long it can go with just the regular 4K. I know people have said it doesn't overheat, so I'm going to run a regular 4K recording and then use the Atomos Ninja and see how that goes. I want to see how that works out. But I've also been doing some tests with the DaVinci Resolve, with the 8K, and holy smokes, it's pushing the system, very far. 100% on the CPU, 100% on the GPU, and I'm running a 2080 Ti and 9900K. So I'm looking at that RTX 3090. I don't know if any of you guys are looking at the RTX 3090 for those wanting to edit video later on, but it's something that's piquing my interest. So those are just my initial thoughts on the EOS R5. I will tell you this, folks. I was trying to wrap my head around this whole story. If Canon had released a camera similar to this, it didn't have to have 8K or 4K 120, but if Canon had even just released an EOS R5 that was similar to the A9 back in 2017, I would have probably sold off all my Sony gear and went back to Canon, like completely. Because at that time, I think I still had my 5D Mark IV, I still had a 7D Mark II, and again, I still had some of my EF glass at the time, and I would have stuck with the EF route, Canon route, had that been the case. It's just that when the 5D Mark IV came out, it wasn't the camera that I was looking for, and then the offerings from Sony at the time was just really great. Now the problem is, you know, we're in 2020 now, and the competition is stacking up already. But I will say that like I said, had this camera come out, very similar specifications, maybe it just had 4K 30, didn't even have 4K 60, but if it handled exactly like this, I would have gotten this camera instead of the A9. Again, if it would have matched it, I would have went with this route. And the reason for that is really just cost, because Canon has so much more legacy glass available, because I shoot sports, so especially their 300 2.8s or 400 2.8s, and the adapting aspect of this seems to be going very, very well. And the fact that I had to spend quite a bit of money to get the Sony 400 f2.8, where I could have saved a lot more money, and then also the fact that this also ends up working with the EOS R5. So this today you can get for maybe 2,000 used, 2,500. Maybe under 3,000 brand new, maybe depending on where you shop for it, but a 120 to 300 f2.8, and then you can shop around for a 400 2.8 if you're looking in that direction for those kinds of lenses. You're going to save much more money in the long term buying this than going with Sony and having to splurge, you know, in excess of 12 to 14K for like their 600, their 400. You get the idea what I'm going for here. But the fact that this is driving these EF lenses on a brand new body with the mirrorless technology on here, 45 megapixels, built-in stabilization. Look, the only thing I would say right now, I am definitely considering maybe an R6 in the future. I'm looking to see if the price goes down slightly, I will definitely look and consider like an R6 maybe, or the R5 depending on a drop in price. But we'll see how things play out. I have the A7S III. That's coming out soon, probably by next week or something like that, right? What is the date right now? The 6th. Okay, so maybe within a week or so, the A7S III will be out. I'll do some tests with it and see how it goes. But in terms of the whole package, again, initial impressions, I'm very, very impressed with Canon and what they did. I would just hope that they can work out the video side of things. I'm still excited about the potential that Tilta, with that attachment on the back, can go ahead and cure some of those overheating woes that are there. If that ends up working out and it solves the problem, I will definitely look back at this camera a little bit more carefully, especially in the future if there's some price drops on it as time goes by. But it's just a question of where Sony's going to be. So I'm not going to jump ship from Sony at this moment. It doesn't make any sense monetarily, financially. But I am curious to see where Sony's going to go with their next iteration, like their A7 IV, A7R5, whatever that might be. It's just that they kind of dropped the ball. And let's be honest here, you know, I'm a fan of Sony, but I'm not on their payroll or anything like that. If they're not working out right, I'll call it out and call it out as it is. But right now, super impressed with the R5. Let me know your thoughts down below for those that are using an R5. How have you kind of customized it to your liking? And for those of you that were kind of with Sony, you know, and you're using this now, what are your thoughts on that? Because I'm very curious to see. But I will tell you, folks, this is the real deal. It's just the video side. It's gimped, but I am going to do a little bit more tests to see where I feel comfortable, and I'll call it there. So I'm going to have another video. I'm going to shoot this event that I'm going to do. I'll shoot the rehearsal with the R5 and see how it goes with video. And I'm going to try and shoot some more clips because I'm getting really... the 8K stuff is really exciting. Granted, it's a little hard on the computer, but really excited about it. Folks, I'm done talking about it. Let me know your thoughts down below. Like, subscribe, and check out my other content, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.